Good afternoon. Welcome to Sports Nothing But Sports with Kent Sterling for Friday, December 6th, 2019, brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Hey, you got benefits, right? You're a working person. If your benefits are going to expire at the end of the year, you've got a health savings account that's going to drift into nothing at the end of the year, call Dr. Mike O'Neill. Make an appointment to see a dentist for the first time in a while. 317-849-2933. He's been my dentist for the last 25 years. I absolutely love Dr. Mike O'Neill. It's a Friday. We haven't had Harry around in a couple of weeks. Let's have Harry ask questions, and I'll provide some answers. And for the questions I can't provide answers, we've got a special guest who's going to do that for me. Harry, how you doing?
Oh, it's a beautiful day in the very shadow of the marquee at Wrigley Field at the Cubby Bear, drinking some tall boys. Give me another Hawker's Shore. It's not really Hawker's Shore. I just like saying Hawker's Shore. At any rate, how are you doing, though?
I could not be better. I am waiting with bated breath for your questions, Harry.
All right, then here they are. Let's get rolling. Kaduchi is copping a squat, so maybe we can get this out of the way before she returns and I get in trouble for ignoring her by talking on my smartphone, as so often occurs for me and for guys everywhere. All right, number one, with a bowl game remaining, what will happen with the quarterback situation at Indiana University?
You know, that is a really good question, Harry, because you got three guys who are going to want to play quarterback, and you've only got one guy who can play quarterback at any given time. So you've got Michael Penix, who was named the starter before this season. You've got Peyton Ramsey, who's got one more year of eligibility left. And Peyton Ramsey is going to graduate this year, so he could be a grad-eligible transfer. Penix has 3 years of eligibility left. Then you've got Jack Tuttle, who transferred in from Utah, and he's got a bunch of eligibility left. What are you going to do with these guys? How many guys can you accommodate until these guys see their opportunities kind of vanishing right before their very eyes? Because, like I said, only one guy can play. If Peyton Ramsey had been passed over as he was by Michael Penix, and then Penix came out and played great football for all 12 games, Peyton Ramsey wouldn't have gotten many sniffs of that football field at Memorial Stadium or on the road for the Hoosiers, and he's got to take that into consideration with 1 year left, right? When you're a freshman, you can say, well, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to show them, I'm going to have a work ethic, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then there's another year that goes by, and another year, and suddenly you've got 1 year of eligibility left, and that window is closed, right? Peyton Ramsey has got to take advantage of his opportunity to play, and he cannot be a confident kid looking at Penix and looking at Tuttle, although Tuttle's kind of a non-issue at this point, but definitely looking at Penix. What do you do if you're Peyton Ramsey? I really think, as he looks ahead to that bowl game, I think that's going to be his final start as an Indiana Hoosier. I'll tell you the truth, I don't see him sticking around. You can be a grad-eligible transfer. Why come back to a situation where the guy, the incumbent starting quarterback, is also going to return? If Penix transfers, Ramsey stays. If Ramsey transfers, Penix stays. One of the two is going to go, and we'll see what happens with Jack Tuttle. Tuttle's dad was a punter for IU back in the late 80s, so there's that kind of heritage thing. Jack Tuttle came to Indiana not ready to be the starting quarterback. I think it's going to be fascinating to see exactly what happens there.
Interesting. It's like musical chairs for quarterbacks, right? You've only got so many seats at the table. Somebody is going to have to go. I hate to see it, but we all know that that's the way it goes. Number two, is there any way to get college kids to realize that losses sting forever and that playing opportunities don't last?
You know, that's a great question, Harry. How about we let my friend LaVall Jordan answer? My friend LaVall is the head coach at Butler. LaVall, what do you think?
You try to, and you try to get them to understand to appreciate where they are and have a perspective about where you are now. It's the only time in your life, high school and college, where you're limited on how long you get to do it. Like David's been right. You can write at the newspaper for 30 years, or go work at a job if you're fortunate. You know, Vince Carter, he graduated in 1995. He's still playing in the NBA. But high school and college is, you only get 4 years of high school, 4 or 5 years of college, and then it's over. And so trying to just be where you are, and stay in the moment, enjoy the journey, and not be in such a hurry to move on, because you don't get it back.
Great answer, LaVall. Thank you very much. Harry?
Number 3, is Jacoby Brissett going to be the Colts starting quarterback in 2020?
I would say the chances of Jacoby Brissett being the starting quarterback in 2020 are about 65%. All right. I think that the Colts are going to draft a guy early this year, but I don't know whether they're going to be ready to say, here are the car keys. This ride is yours. I don't think they're going to do, depending on where they draft and depending on who they draft. So there are a lot of variables, right? But I think that given the majority of the variables, which we can already sort of foresee, Jacoby Brissett looks like a guy who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, although there is going to be a guy behind him who he is going to be asked to tutor a little bit and make sure he's ready to go in 2021. That's why that extension for Jacoby Brissett was kind of a nice gesture by the Colts, and really sort of a nice gesture by Jacoby Brissett as well. That was a win-win negotiation. He makes some money over the course of a couple of years, understanding that it's kind of a use it or lose it type thing. It's a deal where he's going to have to either prove himself to be a championship-ready quarterback, or he's going to have to turn it over to somebody else. And I think by the end of 2020, that job is going to belong to something else, not Jacoby Brissett, because one thing we've seen over these games that he's played, I don't think he's a championship-ready quarterback. I don't think he's a guy, unless you've got a dominant defense, and I mean dominant like the Baltimore Ravens were dominant when they had Trent Dilfer take them to the Super Bowl. I think that Jacoby Brissett is a guy who's not going to lose you games because he's not going to throw a lot of picks, but he's also not going to be able to win you games. He's going to be able to play when things are scripted and he knows where to go. When the going gets tough and you got to win with your wits in the fourth quarter, I don't think that he's that guy. Although, you know what? They're 6-6. They got 4 games left. We'll see what happens over these 4 games. And if they win these 4 games, they're going to go to the playoffs. And maybe Brissett shows himself to be different from what we've seen. It seems unlikely, but it could happen.
I like him. He's a tough kid. I hope he comes back and he shoves it to all the doubters and takes the Colts to a Super Bowl. All right, number 4. Tough stretch for Butler coming up. Is this a shakedown cruise for the Big East season?
You know, this is a tough stretch. You had the game against Ole Miss the other night in Oxford. Butler won that. You've got Florida coming to town tomorrow. Then you've got Baylor at Baylor on December 10th. Then you've got kind of a pushover against Southern University on the 14th. Then you've got the Crossroads Classic against Purdue. So this is a tough stretch. And instead of me trying to guess at an answer, how about we bring LaVall Jordan back in for his answer?
Yeah, I think that's what, when we put the schedule together for this season, you know, obviously a couple of them are in our control, Ole Miss and Florida, a couple of them are not, but the goal is to be prepared for Big East play. And obviously it's night in, night out in the Big East, and so a stretch like this and how you respond in a stretch like this, you know, helps you learn a lot about what yourselves, and you get exposed in some areas, what you need to work on and what we need to practice, you know, and our players get to be in the moment and respond in the moment so that when, you know, Big East comes around, you've been through some things and you got some points of reference to draw from.
Another great answer from LaVall. Thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate it, LaVall. Harry, question number 5, please.
All right, number 5. Give me a lock of the weekend.
All right, well, let's just run through the conference championships that are going to be played tomorrow and see if any strike me as a lock. You've got LSU, Georgia. LSU, a 7-point favorite. LSU is going to want to beat the living hell out of Georgia, right? Because here's the scenario. You've got LSU and Ohio State. If they both win, they're going to lock in at 1 and 2. That means that the 2 is going to play Clemson at number 3, assuming that Clemson beats Virginia tomorrow, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I think that both those teams are going to play their asses off and try to score as many points as they possibly can. LSU -7 against Georgia. I'm going to LSU. I'm going to take the favorite. Maybe Georgia is a team that could win outright. If you like LSU, I would take them and give the points. If you like Georgia, I'd take the money line and bet them to win that game outright. I don't think it's going to be a 3, 4, 5, 6-point game. I think either Georgia gets hammered by LSU or Georgia rises up and smites LSU themselves. Okay, Clemson, -28.5 against Virginia. I think that Dabo Swinney is going to try to score as many points as humanly possible tomorrow, because that's the only way he cracks the top 2 unless one of the top 2 lose. I think that Clemson is going to win this game against Virginia by 1 million. I don't even blink at that 28.5 points. I think Clemson wins as the favorite. I wouldn't care if it was 35 points. Doesn't make any difference to me. I think it's going to be like 59-3. I think they're going to win by 1 million. All right, Baylor, Oklahoma, -9. I got no feel for this game. I got to tell you the truth. I think Lincoln Riley's a hell of a good coach, and they've got a productive offense. Baylor, I haven't seen Baylor, so I just don't know. I'm staying away from that one. Push come to shove, I am taking Oklahoma just because I have no affinity whatsoever for Baylor. I hate the program and hate the university. All right, Utah and Oregon. Utah is -6.5. If Utah is going to get into the big dance, is going to get into the college football playoff, they're going to have to win by a lot of points and hope to get some help. So I think they're going to go into that game and try to score as many points as humanly possible. So I'll take Utah as the 6.5-point favorite. And then the Buckeyes, Ohio State playing against Wisconsin here in Indianapolis tomorrow. I think Ohio State wins this game by 1 million. Right? I keep saying that, but I think I like the favorites all day tomorrow. I would I think Ohio State -16.5, even though Paul Chryst and that defense, they're not terrible. They're really pretty damn good. I'm still going to think that Ohio State's going to cover. But if I've got to pick one of these things, I'm going to take, this is going to sound insane. And I'm so glad I don't gamble, because I would sweat this out forever. I mean, all you're doing when you take a 28.5-point favorite is you sweat for like the first 3.5 quarters, because you have no idea what's going to happen late. Maybe the coach pulls guys, and all of a sudden, those without the starters, they give up a couple of, by the way, late touchdowns, and the cover winds up happening. I don't think that that's going to happen. I'm going to take Clemson and Dabo Swinney to kick the living hell out of Virginia. That would be my lock.
You know, it's a good thing neither of us gambled, Reds, because I'm not sure. We would, you know what would happen? Because we don't gamble, we're pretty good at picking. But if we knew that we were going to have to invest behind our picks, I don't think that it might go all that very well. Hey, if I don't talk to you before the holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody, Happy Kwanzaa to everybody. Hopefully I'm back on Friday, next Friday, but you never know. Maybe Gnoretz's check bounces. Maybe he decides that he doesn't need old Harry anymore to ask questions. Wouldn't that be the saddest thing about? Hey, Dutchie, how'd that go for you? Whoa, boy, get me a seat upwind from the lavatory. I'll tell you that. All right, Gnome, we'll talk to you next week.
Harry, I could smell it from here. What an awful visual and awful aroma full, right? Just Terrible. Please calm Dutchie and wave a towel if the stench gets too dense. That's Sports Nothing But Sports for a beautiful Friday in central Indiana. Enjoy the weekend. Get some Christmas shopping done. Enjoy your family. Enjoy all the basketball and football beginning tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be awesome. And high school basketball tonight, you got Roncalli visiting Guerin Catholic, of course. And then tomorrow at noon, it's Butler in Florida from Henkel. At 4:30, it's Indiana and Wisconsin from Madison. Tomorrow, all day, there's going to be great football, as we discussed. I really like Ohio State. I got to tell you the truth. I think they're going to cover. I think Paul Chryst is a really good coach. But Ohio State is playing for something. LSU is playing for something. I would take all the favorites and feel real confident that at least 3 of them are going to come in. In those 5 conference championship games, the big ones that are going to have an effect on the college football playoff scenario, I take the favorites and I don't look back. We'll talk to you Monday, Breakfast with Kent, 8 o'clock on Facebook Live, 8:15 on Periscope Live. It is a show so nice we do it twice. Join me then, brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry, 317-849-2933.